another edition of Michigan Conservative Roundtable. 3 regular guys from the state of Michigan who are conservatives trying to spread the conservative message, and you can help us do that by liking, sharing on Facebook or other social media, but certainly by subscribing. Today's topic is going to be Civil War with a question mark. Is there going to be one? A lot of people are talking about a civil war. I see it every day. I've been saying it for about 20 years now that I thought we were going to be heading towards one, because I see us getting locked in to our viewpoints on both sides. We're just solidly locked in, and nobody's going to budge. So eventually, there's things on the other side you just cannot accept. Conservatives are not going to accept what AOC proposed in the new Green Deal, which is really just a front for straight-up totalitarian communism. I'm not going to accept that. And if we have to go to war over it, then I'm perfectly able and willing. You guys' thoughts?
I believe right now we exist in a state of cold civil war. And some weeks ago, I read an article, and doggone it if I couldn't remember where I saw it, because I looked for it the next day and couldn't find it. But the title of the article was what the next Fort Sumter would be, and the premise being that in the Civil War back in the 1800s, that the first major battle of that Civil War was Fort Sumter, and the author of this particular article was just theorizing what topic would it take for what he felt was a cold Civil War to turn hot. And he just ran down some topics and kind of left it open, because I don't even think this particular author had really an idea. He just threw out a bunch of possibilities, and in his opinion, anything was possible, whether it be transgenderism or abortion or taxes or guns. He basically went down the whole list of political issues, and given the fact, Max saying that neither side's going to budge, how long are we going to remain in a state of cold civil war?
I think at some point the thing that's going to kick it off is going to be if they were able to pull it off. I don't believe it's possible, because they don't have the Senate, and you need 67 votes in the Senate to remove a sitting president. Although I'll tell you, there are those in the Senate, Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, Mitt Romney, that will they like to go against the grain, and like to show how they're the spoon that stirs the drink. I like to think I'm thinking it could be something along the line of Trump's removal from office, or the 2020 election in and of itself. I think Trump could be headed for a landslide victory because of the AOCs, the Rashida Tlaibs, the Ilhan Omar, and their radical ideas, and Nancy Pelosi is unable to stop them. They've taken over the Democratic Party with their communist ideas. I think his removal from office, or the fact that they're going to lose and they're going to get 4 more years of Trump, is going to kick things off. What event might take place, I don't know. It could be something very simple as something like the Boston Massacre, where a group of people get together and somebody shoots, and more people shoot, and a bunch of people end up dead, and a riot starts, and then the riot spreads. He and I are native Detroiters, so we were around in 1967 when that riot kicked off. Had our neighborhood damn near burnt to a crisp.
I remember the
businesses that were there. Yeah, National Guard troops rolling down Warren Avenue in tanks. That's what I woke up to one Saturday morning. Not fun, but things can get out of control very fast, and it can spread nationwide. And anybody who thinks it'd be a great thing to happen, well, it's not going to be good for any of us. And I'll go into those reasons in a bit.
Yeah, I'm going to go a little bit against the grain here. I don't necessarily see a civil war as imminent. Yes, it could always happen. The great Ronald Reagan pointed out that we're never more than a generation removed from totalitarianism. So it's something that's certainly there, and each side is certainly very strident right now. But if you look back at our history, we've had a lot of instances of that. I mean, we talk about how vitriolic the media is in the 1790s. It was downright bloodthirsty, the Republicans, the then Republicans, versus the Federalists. The North was looking at seceding during the War of 1812 because that war hurt Northern shipping interests. We have obviously the Civil War, the Great Depression. There was a lot of socialism, tent cities, a lot of unrest then. and unrest in the 1960s. Mac mentions the Detroit riots.
Watts.
Watts in 1965. The Democratic Convention was at Miami Beach in 1968.
I think it was Chicago, actually.
Chicago, Mike is right, it's Chicago. You know, yes, on the one hand, I can see the possibilities and things can happen. On the other hand, history's kind of wrought, especially our history, I think, of factions being very hardline and very opposed to each other. I'm not willing to look at a civil war as a done deal and that it must come. I just think there's too many times that things have played out where we haven't taken that extra step. So I don't really expect it to happen now, to be completely honest.
I'll tell you where I disagree. I'll tell you what's different now than then. Is, unless you're going to get into blacks and whites and that kind of thing, we have a two-tier justice system now. Republicans or conservatives get pounded and the Democrats walk free. Hillary Clinton's ought to be in prison for the rest of her life. Nothing's happening to her. Because we had an attempted coup in this country, and we'll see how that plays out in the weeks to come. But I suspect they're going to walk. They're going to get away with an attempted coup, and you know what? Maybe they will get away with it next time. That could be something that could kick off a civil war. What's the phrase? No redress of our grievances. If I have nowhere else to go, and I'm getting the short end of the stick in life every time I turn around. I mean, you have people calling for a white genocide. You have black-only graduations. Geez, I thought we moved past that a long time ago. Oh, that kind of nonsense.
Yeah.
But you know, it's almost like, well, it's my turn to be the bigot. Why anybody would want to be one, I don't know. But those are the things I think could kick off a civil war. But I suspect it'll be something small, something that gets out of hand. Anybody pushed far enough will fight back.
May I chime in?
Yes.
My fear is, and you see it in the news every day, you know, it's easy for me to pick on the Democrats here. They want to change the Electoral College. They want to affect the way the voting. They want to
No IDs.
with the illegals and no IDs. With their concerted effort to change the Constitution. Once they change the Constitution, so the snowball begins downhill. Okay, whether it be the gun issue, whether it be the tax issue, you can go down the list of issues. But it's gonna once they successfully start altering the Constitution, it's downhill from there, and that's how I feel.
And that comes after we become a one party. And you know what? That's why they want our guns so desperately. Because they know there could be a civil war, and right now, they're not winning it. We have 100 million gun owners. Now, not all of them will participate in a civil war, but we got what? We got 8 trillion rounds of ammunition?
There's a lot out there.
Well, there's a lot, and they tend to not be armed because, well, they don't believe in guns.
To give you an idea of the surplus that's out there, back in the 1990s, when the Democrats instituted that infamous assault weapons ban, they had to grandfather in the 30-round magazines because there were so many millions of them out there. They knew there was no way they could possibly successfully get them all, and so they had to grandfather that in just by sheer volume. They were forced to.
Well, the one thing, getting back a little bit to the constitutional issue, I understand that. We got to be very careful about changing the Constitution. And I even recognize that sometimes it's just a matter of an interpretation becoming the prevalent view, and that we've effectively changed the Constitution. But some of the things I'm not that worried about. The Electoral College, for example. Even Ruth Bader Ginsburg has said to get rid of the Electoral College, we're going to need to amend the Constitution. As it is, there's this movement right now to the popular election for the Electoral College that's going to get challenged, and the courts are going to overturn it. I'm not really worried about that.
Well, I hope you're right. But let me explain this, though, and I just saw this recently. Colorado voted to give all of their electoral votes, which are 9, I believe in this case, to the winner. So if every person in Colorado had voted for Donald Trump, those 9 electoral votes are going to go to Hillary Clinton because Los Angeles, California, San Francisco, and New York are so heavily populated. Now, if I'm living in Colorado and my vote doesn't count anymore, or my vote goes to the person who I'm going to be pissed, I'm going to want to do something about it, and that's another way a civil war can kick off.
And
I hope you're
absolutely.
right. They go to the court and they
Absolutely,
lose.
and it's going to go to the court and it's going to lose. But the one thing that really bothers me in a lot of this is I've never been a fan, and I'm going to go ahead and call it historical arrogance. And it cuts both ways. One way in which historical arrogance cuts is that people think we're the best thing in the history of mankind because we're the ones alive right now. And another way in which it cuts is these are the worst times we've ever dealt with because they're the times we're dealing with right now. And I don't want to make that mistake. I'm not saying things aren't bad, but things have been bad before. Could these things lead to a war? Well, they could, yeah. But I just don't really expect it.
As the
I
pendulum
think it's
swings back my way, let's just start with the whole. Let's just start with the sanctuary cities. You know what? You guys started it. Okay, you guys started with the sanctuary cities, and if this whole sanctuary city doesn't get addressed and fixed, it's going down.
Well, now they're talking about sanctuary gun counties.
Yeah,
Where we're not going to doing the same thing. We're not going to enforce the law. It's happening in Washington State right now with that I-1639. It's very intrusive on the Second Amendment, and sheriffs are saying this law is BS. We're not going to enforce it. Well, while that favors me, I'm not a fan of not enforcing the law, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
and I'd like to throw this out here too. All this Antifa activity, it's got me worried. It's got me worried because when it occurs in a Democrat-controlled area, it's almost like, I'm just going to say it, it's like they have their tacit approval. If you don't know what tacit means, please look it up. Okay, I just really feel like all this Antifa activity has the tacit approval of the Democrat Party, and no one's going to persuade me otherwise.
I'd go a
of
step
that.
further. I don't think it's like they have it. They do have it. When you tell the police to stand down while they tear up a university campus, or they're beating the hell out of people with Trump hats, I mean, a hat is offensive now. That's insane.
Yeah, you know, when they say
Yeah.
you can't wear a "Make America Great Again" hat, which I don't even own one.
I own one.
But you know what? And I'll confess to this much: in the last election, I was afraid to put a Trump sticker on my car. Okay,
Well,
for
yeah.
fear of it being vandalized.
And it
all right?
would have been.
And I don't know if I'm gonna. I don't know if I'm going to do it again next time. I saw a guy with a couple Trump stickers on his bumper. I didn't even know the guy, but I complimented him for his bravery. Okay, so.
Yeah, but I got to tell you something. I mean, I appreciate the threat that Antifa is, and Antifa is a threat. But we had the Students for a Democratic Society during the Vietnam War that essentially were trying to get the same things as Antifa was, and they were not successful. We had the Molly Maguires bombing mines in the 1870s. You know, we had minor communist and socialistic attacks and bombings in the teens and 20s when the Bolsheviks first took over in Russia. Again, I don't want to belittle these dangers. They're out there and they're real and we have to face them head on. But the existence of danger doesn't mean that the next worst thing is going to happen either. And I want to be careful about saying that because there are sanctuary cities, we're going to have a civil war.
No.
Because gun rights are being trampled, we're going to have a civil war.
Well, the premise of this topic is what could trigger a civil war. I mean, who knows? I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I just know that the temperature is boiling. A lot of people are out there talking about it.
And right now it's cold.
They didn't used to before, but now they are. I've been talking about it for a long time because I saw it as a possibility that we would. Because it really came back to one thing for me. What started the last one? What got brother to kill brother? Well, what would it take for me to kill my brother? And I thought initially it might be abortion because people are pretty dug in on abortion. We lost on abortion because we let them win because we didn't want to hear about it anymore, and we just said, oh, well, it's going to be what it is, so just let them do it, and 50 million are dead because of it, and that's when a good man does nothing, that's how evil flourishes.
And Mac, you're onto something there. And that's something I agree with you 110% on, is that we become comfortable with evil, and we don't want to become comfortable with evil. That is exactly how abortion became the law of the land. Because the Supreme Court said it was okay, and then everybody, even a lot of good conservatives and Republicans, are just like, well, that's a settled question. And we can't treat questions like that as settled. We've got to keep fighting them.
It's bad law. Roe versus Wade was bad law.
Roe versus Wade is bad law.
Right.
Bad law. And those are the things we've got to be careful of.
It's a bad law that led to a genocide. no
Oh,
less.
yeah, yeah.
But I think it's possible. It's on people's minds. You don't think it's possible? I do. I'm
I'm
not saying you don't
worried
think it's
about it.
possible. You don't think it's likely.
I don't think it's likely.
I think
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
possible, and I think it's going to happen over the 2020 election. I think people, if they don't feel like they can have a fair election, they're going to think, well, now the gloves have to come off and we have to have a throwdown. And the left is saying they want to throw down. They think they want to throw down. They don't know what they. Be careful what you wish for. Well, because our side is going to hurt you and hurt you bad. You guys, anything else to add?
Keep your powder dry.
Yeah. If you don't have a gun, get one. If you don't know how to use it, learn how to use it. But until then, be safe, watch your six, and don't tread on me.